American history has there been a greater gulf between what parents are expecting for their kids to learn in school and what is actually happening in public schools in America. My name is Dan, and I'm one of the teaching pastors of Life Fellowship in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is Life Talks. And today we've got two very, very special guests with us, Melissa Gibbs and Nicole Bryan, and they are doing something which I'm so excited about. I've been looking forward to having them on this podcast for several months now. I'm so impressed and I'm so interested in. They are starting Ambassador Christian Academy, which is going to be a new Christian high school in Huntersville, North Carolina, that's going to be serving the area of North Charlotte and the western part of Cabarrus County, and then the Lake Norman area. If I had high school kids and I lived 20 miles away, I would still have this school on my radar, because when it comes to investing in the future of our schools, or our students, not just academically, but spiritually and socially and in so many other areas, Christian education is one of those things that I think has to be a high priority. So I want to welcome you, Melissa and Nicole. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, okay, I'm just going to be just frank and honest. You all are moms. Mm-hmm. Melissa, your kids are now adult. They're out of the nest. I mean, there's some of them are still getting their education, but yours are still in high school. And Melissa has 4 children, and Nicole, you've got 2 boys and a girl. And Nicole, you've been a very successful attorney. Your husband's a very successful attorney. Melissa, your last name is Gibbs, and I mean, we don't hide from that. But you're far more than your family name, but you are your family name as well. Sure. And so you were married to J.D. Gibbs, who was the president of Joe Gibbs Motor Racing, who went to be with the Lord 5 years ago. Yeah. So, but you've been a full-time mom. You work a lot with charitable organizations. You work a lot with, and I've gone blank on the
Young Life.
Young Life. I don't know why I would go blank on that. And Nicole, I mean, it's common knowledge around here. I hope you don't mind me saying, you've been fighting cancer. I mean, and you didn't fight it just once. You had a recurrence of it. Both of you are at that stage in life. I guess what I'm trying to say is, you could have just said, "I'm coasting.
It's pickleball time.
I'm just coasting." But I'm serious. To my listeners, I'd say, when you look up the definition of superwomen in the dictionary, you're going to find Nicole and Melissa's pictures there, because they are forces of nature. So what is behind your passion for this project and your interest particular in having a Christian high school in the Lake Norman area?
I'll tell you the genesis of how it came around, and you're at the cutting edge of it. But as you mentioned, my husband did pass away, and it was something that we knew was coming. And so in advance of the empty nest and widowhood, I realized I was going to need to develop a life for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to school and got a degree in school counseling. And at the time, my greatest hope was to work at Huff, where my kids had been to high school, and started in 2018 and got out in 21. And in the interim there was 2020. And that's when the wheels kind of came off societally and specifically within schools. And parents were yelling at school board meetings, and there was critical race theory and mask mandates and pronouns and all kinds of things going on. And I realized that the public school probably wouldn't be very excited about me, and I wouldn't be a great fit for them, and began to look around at, where is an excellent Christian school up here? What are my options? And just quickly realized that we don't have a lot of options. And so I thought, gosh, somebody should start a Christian high school specifically up here. And so the first person I came to was a man named Dan Burrell, because I knew he was very passionate about education. And I thought, gosh, would our church want to start a school? And your answer?
That conversation didn't go real well. It was not no, but most certainly no.
Right.
I'm too old and smart.
Don't tell me that, Dan. But that's really how it started, was the idea of noticing that there was a need and someone should fill it, and trying to talk with other people that I thought could take this idea and do something with it. And then in pretty short order, realizing, oh, wow, is that am I supposed to do something with this? Is this me that the Lord's tapping? And so pretty quickly after that, a mutual friend suggested, hey, have you ever asked Nicole? And of course, Nicole and I knew each other from being at church here. And so I sent her a text and just said, have you ever thought about starting a Christian school? And she said, I haven't, but I will now. And it wasn't 2 weeks before she wrote back, I'm in. And that was it. We just started doing things. I don't even know how to describe that early process. We just started doing stuff. And then next thing you know, you've done enough things and strung them together, and you've made a path towards starting a school. Yeah.
Well, Nicole, and you're integral to this. I remember a conversation not only with Melissa, but with you. Tell the audience a little bit about your journey toward this great faith attempt.
Well, I would say it probably started back in 2011, maybe. That's before I was diagnosed with cancer the first time. And I know I've shared with both of you, but I just felt like after hearing a sermon here at church, I walked away with my notes thinking, what have I done for the Lord? What have I really, really done? And, in my comfortable life here in Lake Norman. And not long after that, I was diagnosed with cancer. As you mentioned, it did metastasize. So I had a battle with stage 4 cancer. And frankly, the prognosis that was given to me at that time was you have a 30% chance of being alive in 3 years. And so at that time, I thought, you know what? I'm being called to suffer well. I will suffer for Jesus and I will suffer well. And I really thought that probably that would be the end of my life. But during that time, after I finished the main part of my cancer treatment, I really felt a call from the Lord to go to seminary. So I started at Dallas Theological Seminary after that. Back up just a little bit, my background's in law. So as you mentioned, my husband and I are both lawyers. So we had a thriving law practice, but I felt called to go to seminary. I did that. And the same sort of question resurfaced after seminary, which is, okay, I'm still here. Speaking of, that was also crazy because I think probably my mom and my husband were the two people who said, that's not crazy. Everybody else said, you won't even live to survive. I mean, you're not even going to survive to finish seminary. So why would you do it? But I really felt called to do it. So I got out of seminary and the same question resurfaced. Like, what am I really doing for the Lord? Like something big, like Paul. What am I really doing? So I began teaching. I have a passion for education. I've taught lawyers and paralegals and community events and things like that my whole career. So I went into teaching at a Christian school. And within 2 weeks of teaching in high school, I remember texting my husband, Callan, and saying, okay, this is it. This is what I can do big for the Lord. This is my passion, Christian education. And so it really, the Lord just kind of paved the path for me. So when Melissa texted me and said, have you ever thought about it? And I said, no, but I will. Went home and talked to Callan, and he said, I can't believe that because you literally just told me that you want to dedicate the rest of your life to Christian education, high school. So it was an easy yes for Melissa. And so, as she said, we just started meeting and we just did the next right thing. And we both really felt pretty passionately about the Lord calling us to this place and preparing us for this really throughout our whole lives. So. Yeah.
Well, one of the cool things, and I'm passionate about education as well. I have 3 college degrees, all of them in education, and I used to lead a large association of Christian schools. One year we were looking for a theme for our annual training conference, and I remember about that time that there was a lot of people that would say something like, "The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world." And I thought about that, and I said, "Yeah, that's true. There's nothing more powerful than a mother's influence." But I said, if there's a number 2, it is teachers. And so that year for our theme was the hand that holds this has been a while. So the hand that holds the chalk. Nobody uses chalk anymore, but the hand that holds the chalk shapes the future. And I really believe that education is one of those integral callings that really allows the current generation to shape the next generation, how they think, their values, their mindset, their mentality, their philosophy, and their worldview. When you all are thinking about your school, and I want you to tell us a little bit about it. Where's it going to be? The name of it. How broad is it going to be? But when you think of of the opportunity that lies before you, what was the thing that kind of said, I'm in, because this is the mission that I feel God has called us to?
School is a mission field. And if you look at the landscape of teenagers right now, it is the saddest, most anxious, most confused generation on record. And so it feels like school can really speak into that for kids, just because the sheer volume of time that a kid spends in school. And if you add on to that extracurricular activities afterwards, you have a tremendous influence. And so it does feel like the most natural way to impact a hurting generation and show them where real hope and peace lies.
Yeah. Nicole, let me ask you on that same kind of question, but also so why not just make it a private school? Why is it going to be a Christian high school?
Well, very good question. I mean, I don't think either one of us would have just started a private school that's not a Christian school. So that really is the main focus and mission and vision. The name of our school is Ambassador Christian School, and our vision is to launch ambassadors for Christ into all spheres of influence. So that really is at the center of what we're doing. As Melissa said, this generation especially, we've walked away, as a country, as a society from faith. And we know, having both of us gone through very difficult times in our lives, that Christ is the whole, he is the way. And we know that if we can model that and teach that for children, that we give hope to the next generation of students. So we would not have started just a private school. We really felt called to this is kingdom work, and we feel really passionate about really helping the next generation know and discover Christ, and also, in our vision to launch ambassadors into all spheres of influence. One of the things that we're super passionate about and is a distinctive of Ambassador Christian is that all of our students will go through pretty extensive aptitude testing, and that's to help them discover how God made them.
Excellent. And it's ironic that you say that, because I'm prepping right now for next Sunday's sermon, which it'll already be over by the time this podcast hits the air. But the idea of identifying your aptitudes, God's created us in a certain way, and when we find those aptitudes, it helps us to be able to focus on our future and our purpose and why we're here and what difference we're supposed to be making. In the same that He gave you a love for young people and a love for education, now He's brought it to this moment. So, Melissa, I quite frankly, I don't even know if you remember this, but I do. It was. I had been preaching here one Sunday, and I was quoting from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, where it talks about, now then you are ambassadors for Christ. And you walked up to me, and you had written down Ambassador Christian, and you said, and I don't remember whether it was just like it moved in. You had already decided that, and this was just confirmation or whatever, but you mentioned it to me in the lobby on your way out. You said, look at this name, like that. So tell us, Ambassador Christian, where's it going to be? Who's it for? Give us some of the meat and potatoes of it, would you?
Right. It is just a high school, and it's in Huntersville on 73 as you leave Huntersville heading towards Concord. So within a 10-mile radius, we are hitting all of those areas of North Charlotte and West Cabarrus and Lake Norman, as you said. We're looking to have a full capacity when we're totally built out, somewhere in between 800 to 1,000 students. So we'd like to have the economy of scale to be able to offer all the advantages of a small Christian school with the faith-based education, the values-driven culture, with the big amenities and social experience and extracurriculars that the public school has to offer. And that's what's missing up here. We don't have that. So that is our hope, is to blend those two things so that parents don't have to choose between one or the other.
All right. So let me just kind of ask you the rapid fire questions on this. So when you think high school, it's more complex by far than an elementary school. Are the kids that graduate from Ambassador Christian going to be college prep?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have all the APs, and we will have, an academic track for the kids who are really excited about college and, that academics are their gifting. And there are a lot of kids that fall into that category.
So a lot of learners, right brain and left brain. Right brain tend to be more, creative, more interested in fine arts. Left brain tend to be more emphasis on athletics or sometimes like math, science, those kinds of things, depending on. So are you going to have a program that leans one way or the other, or how are you going to be looking at fine arts versus athletics, science versus the arts, or so forth?
Well, we're really excited about our facilities. We have over 28 acres. We have a building that's over 80,000 square feet. We have 2 commercial kitchens. We've got a basketball court. And to the arts question, we have an auditorium that seats over 2,100 people. So it's the largest auditorium in this area for sure. So we're excited because of the facilities that we have and because of our mission and vision, we are going to have paths for all students. So we will have a really robust arts program. We will start off year 1 with 18 sports for men and women. 9 for men and 9 for women. And we will also start off with some industrial arts classes. So, for example, one of the classes I'm super excited about is our students will have the opportunity to build a factory kit car, like a hot rod from a kit. That's just a little taste of what we're doing in the industrial arts. We have plans on our campus to build what we're calling the Workmanship Center. And that will be for more industrial arts. And those students who have giftings or want to explore, more opportunities to work with their hands or to build or to create. It might be welding or robotics or cybersecurity, those types of offerings. So we're really excited because we feel like we're going to have offerings for every type of learner and every type of student.
And I can't tell you how absolutely thrilled and excited I am about that concept. And you all know me, but not necessarily all the listeners know I'm a university professor full time. And I believe in higher education, but not every kid should be going to college. Not every kid can go to college. And a lot of kids are going into college and going into massive amounts of debt to earn degrees that will provide them no practical way to earn their living long term, or in some cases to even pay back the debt they've accrued. Because if you accrue $120,000 worth of debt and you want to be a museum curator or a elementary teacher or a preschool teacher or whatever, you can't do both. Yeah, you're going to be saddled with this debt, whereas while people are buying houses, you're going to be paying off your student debt for years and years and years and years. So to hear you all talk about these issues of mechanics, working with your hands, because that's the thing that built America. I mean, America was built by hard work and laborers and character, and even a spiritual philosophy of work says, whatsoever my hand finds to do, I'm going to do it with my might. There's honor in work and integrity in work that I think sometimes we've so emphasized the value of a college education, we've missed this. So I'm really thrilled about that. I'm also thrilled about your emphasis on the fine arts. When I hear you all describing the 2,100 seat auditorium, I envision school plays and concerts and music and public speaking. And I always used to say this when I was in education. I would say this: in 20 years, all of the athletes that graduate from your high school are going to be sitting on the couches with beer bellies, eating Cheetos. All right, they're not going to be still out there on the football field. But here's the bottom line. You teach a kid how to sing, how to play an instrument, how to do public speaking, how to write well. And in 20 years, that could be their career. That could be or even better, they're doing that in their church on Sundays.
Right.
And they're able to continue that. And I'm not against one or the other, but I'm saying develop both sides. And you all seem to have that philosophy. Well, talk to me about worldview, if you could. And we're actually going to have another episode where we'll talk about some of the more philosophical areas. But when it comes to worldview, how are you going to inculcate scripture and thinking biblically to a generation within a culture that really has largely wanted to dismiss that?
I think our interim head of school is a man named Mark Davis, and he was the head at Covenant Day for 12 years before he came to help us. And at our recent interest meetings, he described Christian education with a great visual. he talked about ice cream. And he said a lot of people think of Christian education as being sprinkles. You just, here's your education. We'll just sprinkle a little bit of chapel on it. We'll sprinkle a little bit of Bible class on it.
Yeah.
But it's basically just a topping.
Yeah.
What Christian education should be is more like fudge ripple that is just, woven into the entire mound of ice cream. And so we don't aim to be just a Christian school that has chapel and Bible. But it's part of everything from sports to arts to the industrial arts to the classroom, the culture, the very culture.
Yeah. Yeah. Your faith ought to be something you visit, but ought to be something that seeps from your pores. Yeah. So are you going to have chapels? Are you going to have campus groups, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Young Life, or anything like that?
Yes.
Are you, what are you going to use to support, I guess, the spiritual journey of your students in this?
Well, one thing I think is we've been blessed with is we've got a lot of Young Life DNA in our staff already. And my history with Young Life. Nicole's kids are involved with Young Life. They do a great job connecting with young people and introducing them to Jesus and allowing them to see the joy and the fun of it rather than the rules and the boring stuff. So we've hired several people, one of whom is a student life director, and her entire job is to inject levity and spontaneity and fun into the environment and to the day for a kid. And so we're really coming at this from a very student-centered focus and trying to make Ambassador Christian a place that they want to be and that they're bought in on all levels.
Excellent. Nicole, we're out of time for this episode. We'll hit it again in our next episode. But if somebody are saying, oh, I'm in, I need information, I want to talk to somebody, how do they find out more about Ambassador Christian?
You can go to our website. It's ambassadorchristian.net, ambassadorchristian.net. And we have a whole host of tabs on our website and lots of information. And, if anybody wants to contact Melissa or me or anybody else on our team, you're welcome to send us an email at ambassadorchristian.net. On the website, there's links to our email, and we'd love to connect.
Excellent. Well, Melissa and Nicole, thank you so much for starting to share with us the vision of what God's doing in your life to lead you to the founding of this great opportunity of a Christian high school in Lake Norman region. And to all of you who are listening, I hope you'll be thought, people ask me all the time, well, what do you think parents should be doing for education for their kids? And I say, well, that's not my job. You're the parent. I'm not. For some parents, their kids survive, do well, even flourish at times in public schools. Others choose homeschooling, and others choose a private school of this type or that. But for many people, a Christian education is something that allows the partnership that should exist between the home and church and school to flourish. And when that flourishes, it's good for the kids. Ultimately, it's always a spiritual journey. Ultimately, it's always a work of the Holy Spirit as the student engages with truth. But when we can come together in a systematic team approach to help our kids grow in the nurture and admonition of the Word of God, it helps move them toward that right direction. And as the Proverbs tells us, to train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That's a truism. It's not a promise, but here's what it does. That word hanach, which is train, is to get them started on the right path. Like a rose on a trellis or a racehorse in a starting gate, it gets them going in the right direction. So Nicole and Melissa, thank you so much for being with me today. And we're going to look forward to talking a little bit more about the whys of education. And for those of you who are listening, I hope you'll tell others about Life Talks. I hope you'll tell others about Ambassador Christian. And until next time, thanks as always for joining us here at Life Talks.